Welcome back, friends. You're listening to Choose, Sip, Repeat. I'm your host, Christina Winkle. Today's guest is the beverage director at one of Tulsa's most popular fine dining restaurants. He is a sommelier and is one of the best bartenders in town. But that's not all. He splits his time between two passions. When he's not recommending you an amazing bottle of wine that pairs seamlessly with your dinner, you will find him mixing it up at your favorite local night spot. Welcome, Mr. Scott Phillips, a.k.a. Dr. Freeman. Well, I'm excited to talk to you, Scotty, a.k.a. Dr. Freeman, because I've always known you as just being one of the few somms here in town. And then also, I was always told that you were incredibly good at what you did. Mm-hmm. And you work at, like, notably, probably the fanciest restaurant in town. Mm-hmm. And are the beverage director of that said restaurant. So I've always known that side of you. But then I've recently discovered, and I knew that you dabbled in DJing, but I didn't know that it was such a strong passion of yours, and that music as a whole is a big passion of yours, maybe like focusing a little bit more on hip hop, I assume. So I am genuinely curious to have these conversations with you and learn more about you, because I personally find it fascinating. So welcome to Choose, Sip, Repeat.
Hey, I'm glad to be here at Choose, Sip, Repeat. We out here on location at the Hem Dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, those I think are, when it boils down to, like, Conan, what is best in life? Wine, raps, repeat. It would be my answer, kind of thing. But yeah, most people, they either know me only as beverage director / former bar manager of a different bar, or they only know me as a DJ. And then oddly enough, there's cats that only still know me as an MC. And those are normally cats that, like, went off to their greener pastures outside of Oklahoma, and then they come back and it was like, "You doing what now?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." Or people that I grew up with, then like, "Wow, I totally did not see that coming," because I have a very, very strong office background as far as, like, my employment is concerned.
Really?
Yeah. Was a customer service assistant manager and a parts manager over at Mathis Brothers for like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And then
the layers of the onion keep
a little bit more like a biscuit. Soft, fluffy, warm, approachable. But yeah, and then from there I was at Dish Network as a route manager. So I was like routing technicians, like 2 screens, walkie-talkie, talking to like 60 dudes I never see, because I was like routing 30 technicians in, like, Gulf Coast, and then 30 more in the Great Lakes area. And you got to make the best geometric pattern you can for their routes, that kind of thing. So
you've been all over the place.
Yeah. I was like bar backing at old vintage 1740 whenever they shut my department down at Dish, and stuck in service full time. And
that's kind of how it just became. You just naturally progressed into it.
Yeah. And the only reason I even got that job at Vintage, because I was working the door at Valkyrie.
And when they first opened.
This was 2000. When did Valkyrie open? 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a door guy there for like the first year and some change. That's how I met Matt Sanders, because I used to have to make him wait in line. Yeah. The cocktail culture hit very sudden and fast in downtown Tulsa.
That's true. Yeah, I do remember that. They would let 2 in, 2 out kind of thing.
Because there's like a lot of drinks that took care to be made. And also we want people just like hammering those drinks, because, they were, as the slogan says, playfully making serious drinks, and people were getting hammered. So, just to ease up on the bar and ticket times, and also make sure people weren't just like flying through drinks, they had to have like a door guy system. But just coincided with my nightlife, because like I just go down to Pony and do whatever show I had going.
Yeah.
Then so
Okay, so I want to back up and slow down a little bit just
Hmm.
because I feel like I want to set the stage a little bit. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but each guest, I implemented this probably like this is the third time I've done it, I think. Each guest that's on the show will ask the next potential guest a question.
Okay.
So without knowing who that guest is.
What's the question? I know. Hey, I'm familiar with this game. What is it? One for normal people. They do this sometimes.
Do they really?
Yeah.
So John brought it up to my attention and suggested that I did it, John Moss.
Okay.
So I've been kind of we implemented it with Judy's episode, which just aired Friday, and then but the person that well, I can say it out loud because this won't air until after that one's already gone. So I had Tony Collins on just recently, and
Oh, it's my guy.
yeah, we took a deep dive into the world of
Tony Collins,
champagne.
yeah.
Tony Collins, yeah,
Tony
yeah,
Collins.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And so his question, without knowing who was going to be the next guest, is what his question is, what did your parents say when you told them that you were going to make a career in the world of hospitality? Like how did that conversation go down? Or was it even a thing?
That's super funny. That's Tony Collins, and it's super funny. Y'all talking about champagne. My favorite style of wine is sparkling wine. But no, it never became. It was never a question. I don't think. No, with my role in the dynamic of the cogs and wheels that are in my family, people don't really question what I do. They just kind of. It's like, oh, that's Scotty. He's doing his thing,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah, you may appreciate that too, but like, it's never been like, oh, so that's what you're doing with your life or anything like that. Or, and thankfully never had the question of like, well, what about all that school you did and all that other stuff? I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's always time to do that. I figure, if this whole hospitality thing doesn't work out, I've got an art therapy plan and a program that is ready, waiting in the wings for me to approach. Actually, I could probably still do that. But anyways, and I've also got credits that's still available to me. Should I go back to get my master's and that kind of thing? But yeah, no one's ever really asked me, is this what you're going to do? Or are you sure? Or anything like that. Subsequently, there's also on the other side, there hasn't been a lot of, you go get them, Scotty's, or you be the best. But my fam does appreciate the realm of, of employment that I have put myself into. They appreciate that I am in a position doing what I do because there are not a lot of people that look like me doing what I do.
Right. Right. What were they super, like, for example, like holidays? My family, they have branched out since I have been in the industry and kind of forcibly forced certain things on them. And the fact that, I married a chef and my other sister married a chef. So it's just kind of evolved naturally, but they're still not like, I wouldn't consider them like food. I hate the word foodies. But I wouldn't consider them a lover of food. Is your family lovers of food, or are they?
I've
Are
since
you the
moved
black
to
sheep in that area?
still kind of. I mean, and there's more than one black sheep in this little herd of ours, but yeah, I'd say I've moved to the term gastronomically inclined versus like foodie. Just like
Right.
folks like what they like. Like I will still roll up to mom's house for hard shell tacos with like lettuce and cheese on them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just
Pre-shredded cheese.
I'm still going to smash about 6 of them.
Right.
It's still going to happen. But also, I mean, from the east side, like I make tortilla tacos and do everything from scratch because, growing up with those homies, like in that east side Tulsa neighborhood, like I was exposed to a lot of that stuff like mad early. Like,
Right.
Vietnamese Hmong population, like they had me on pho like way early, like since like late 90s, early 2000s. So
Wow.
it's kind of how, food and wine is. It's a regional thing. On the east side, we kind of stay on the east side and we eat what's around there and that kind of thing. We make
Right.
those kind of meals. And that's just, me and my mother being East Tulsans kind of thing. Now, my uncles, like ex-Marines, they all went out for training out on the West Coast and never came back. And then the other one moved the other side of the country and lives in Virginia. Now, when they come to town, they know, I know where to get their premium spirits. And, we hit the cigar bar. Like, we ain't just doing like tall boys and knocking back cheap shots. Like, they want to smoke a cigar and have a good, but even then they appreciate the expertise I have and like pointing them in the direction of maybe a scotch they've looked at and haven't tried before because they didn't know about it or didn't feel comfortable because they didn't know anyone else who had it that could give them a positive recommendation. Same thing for wines and other beverages and food and stuff like that. So
it's appreciated then.
It's appreciated. It's definitely appreciated. And, my uncles that were in the military, like they've done more traveling, I'd say, about anyone else within the family.
Sure.
I mean, overseas and abroad and everything like that. So, they have a bit of taste. They have a bit of taste, for sure. For sure.
They've just been exposed to a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my other family members that haven't, like, they'll hit me up like, hey, we're looking to drink something different with this, or this. What can you recommend? And then that extends itself to the hip hop side, like those within the music world here in Tulsa, like they'll hit me up. But hey, man, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? Or does this go with this? Or we're having a party. What's going to go on here? We're trying to source wine for this event, that kind of thing. So.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad that there are people are in your family and community noticing your level of expertise and instead of being threatened by that or anything like that, they're using it as a tool and they're actually coming to you for advice. And because that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just
the bougie
like
jokes ain't gonna stop.
The weirdo over there.
The bougie jokes ain't gonna stop. Like, and I get that. I always get a bit of ribbon kind of thing whenever I pull up to the function and, if I've got something different to drink than what everybody else would have brought. But then that turned into like, oh, is Scotty coming? Because we know he's going to bring something weird and we're going to like it. So,
and we're going to like it. That's good. Like it. So you were talking about being from the east side. So is Tulsa your hometown then? Okay.
Yeah. Which is odd because I feel like, man, in my heart, I'm like, I'm the most Tulsa person ever. But people are always like shocked. I'm like, where you from? I'm like, Tulsa. I'm from here. I'm from Tulsa. I'm like, what? Really? I'm like, yeah. MTV generation, man. Like, I watch a lot of TV, so I don't really have the twang, I guess.
Right.
I immerse myself.
So where did you go to high school then?
East Central.
East Central. What year did you graduate? Are you
2001?
Okay. See, I was thinking that I was way older than you.
Really?
I don't know why. I just thought that I graduated in 2000. So we're very close in age. I just assumed that you were like, I don't know, 35.
Appreciate that. Yeah, 41 popping up on me in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And so we talked a little bit about your first introduction to the industry. So was it vintage then, or was that like you were bar backing there? Was that your first job in the industry, or did you have some prior to that?
Well, technically, Valkyrie was the first one because working the door there, like end of the night, I would like mount the floors and stuff like that, help out. But it gave me an idea of what closing and shutting down bars looked like, kind of thing. And then from there, I was in this band as an MC and with some of the best musicians in Tulsa. I'm like Mason Bremmel on keys. We had Jordan Hale on standing upright bass, and we had my man Ryan Wayne Tedder. He's in Chicago now, but he was on the horns.
Oh wow.
Mike Cameron, he was one of our saxophonists. We had the homie Reed Richard on trombone, and then my boy Malachi Burgess on drums. And yeah, we were doing some things, and then we went to go record in San Antonio for a session. This band at the time was called Mexican Cartel. Right? Yeah. I don't like my man Mason. Like, he had a flair for the names, and which you can, man, I was about to say you can
just
still
reunite and call yourselves Narcos.
Well, we had switched the name to like New Technique. And then I think the newest incarnation is like Local Honey. But that was like the first espresso martini before the craze hit. Mason had put that drink on the menu at Hodges Bend, the
Uh-huh.
Mexican cartel. So I think that they were still making that up until, man, may they rest.
I know.
We miss Hodges Bend, guys. We miss the Bend.
Yes, very much so.
But I was in a band with them, and then we were gonna go record down in San Antonio, and my brother, saving the best for last here, John Paul Pope on the cello. He was the bar manager slash main bartender over at 1740. And he was like, "Hey man, if you want to like bar back, pull up." And at the time, Valkyrie could only have me at the door, kind of
Right.
thing.
Well, they have kind of like a really
That came
rigorous.
later.
Oh, that came later.
That came later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Old Guard was, some vetted industry professionals in town. Shannon Wisner, my girl Marie, who's now, I think she's still with Provisions.
Yeah.
She just moved back. Um, so my man, Nadal, Kevin, which like I learned a lot from Kevin at
Uh-huh.
that time as well. Of course, Aaron, he pulled
Aaron
some
Post,
shifts.
yes.
Yeah. Tyler was there. Shout out to Tina's. Yeah, like a whole crew. It was like the dope crew. So, just even having the opportunity to do floors in there and see how they closed down gave me an idea of what bar life was like. And that camaraderie, it was like, man, out of all of my other jobs, especially because I'm coming from an office job background, I had not felt as comfortable with the crew as I did there. And then until I got to 1740, when they were like, yeah, if you want a bar back, pull up. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So after vintage then and bar backing, that was kind of like probably, I would imagine you're learning to make cocktails and doing your, whilst doing your other bar backing responsibilities. But when was your first bartending job?
Oh, yeah. Well, still then, because eventually they were like, all right, cool. You want to make drinks and serve wine now? I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from there, they were like, all right, well, here you go. Let them let you fly. And then shout out to Blake Engelman, the homie Chris Davis that I currently work with now here at the Hemi, and Sean Paul Pope and Maddie Sanders and my boy John Brenneman, because that's like the best environment for me to learn. And I had great folks to learn from. But yeah, they taught me the ropes, and there's some things that we even learned together. It was like, keep the fucking vermouth in the fridge. Like stuff like that. Part of my language. But
Right.
it's just like we just learned stuff together, but they taught me like a lot. And yeah, I definitely went from clearing tables and taking out trash to making drinks and selling wine. So,
And now you're here.
and now I'm here. Now I'm here. And this is a new frontier for me. I've been with this company now since meat and potatoes a lockdown. They came and got me like July of 2020.
Right. And they were still in construction during that time, right?
Oh yeah, this was all
Yeah.
bare bones. Like it was straight concept mode even then. I believe when a few of the spots downtown tried to halfway open up with, restrictions, guidelines, etc. Trevor Tack and had went by Vintage and, had asked for me, see where I was at, and they had to tell him the news that had departed. And from there, he immediately hit up Tom, and Tom was in a meeting, told me, he was like, yeah, I immediately had to like step away from that meeting to make sure I called you. And I was like, yeah, man. And at this time, a gentleman who I had also met through service and hospitality when lockdown hit, offered me an opportunity to still make some cash because I couldn't be sitting still. We had just finished recording the Final to Africa project.
Yeah.
So my whole world, it was just like, oh man, I just did this really great thing, but I just had to quit my job also because of what's happening right now. And then Tom called me and was like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, bud, I'm sitting in a room. I'm sitting in a trim room counting bags and bags of copious amounts of weird guns. Just, what's up? He's like, well, hey, I heard you in Vintage. I got this opportunity. We're working on this new concept. And from there, the rest is history. This is my first foray into not just dining, but fine dining kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a different world.
It's a different world. It's a whole new world, dare I say. But it's a fun one. And I was nervous, obviously, at first. It's like it's more than me, shaking drinks, pouring a bunch of by the glass, still having like that atmosphere where I could chuck a mofo if I need to, if they act out of line.
Sure.
A bit more laid back, but then again, like we weren't really just going crazy over there either. So, but I was definitely comfortable after like soft open. Even soft open, I was like, the more faces I see, I recognize, the more comfortable I become. And that's also been like the journey here. I'm still running into more and more of my old regulars.
Oh yeah, I bet from vintage, yeah.
Here, even this evening being the second year. So yeah, it's been a fun transition, and fine dining is, I'm noticing a whole extra beast from like, say, standard, and I'm not just saying like, oh, Applebee's or anything like that. I'm talking like even block stuff that we got here, like from your McNelly's to your Kill Kings, etc.
Right.
Like my experience with volume is like, my older brothers and their friends, like, were bouncers at clubs in the club days of Tulsa, like South Tulsa.
Right.
So that means I subsequently also knew like owners, bartenders there, but you see how that is. It's just like turning and burning. Like I thought all bartending was like that. I thought
it's just like, next.
Yeah, you're moving too slow. Next, that kind of thing.
Right, you better have your money out ready, or I'm on to the next.
Getting a drink kind of thing. So I was like, man, who the hell want to do this? And like, but also, I figured out like, oh damn, you leaving home with how much a night? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like I'm on hourly at the office, like getting carpal tunnel and too close to my screen, huh? Cool. So, like I said, even though I was kind of like, oh man, damn, they just shut down the whole department. The fact that Vintage was just like, well, hey, we got you, bud. What you want to do? And I was like, all right, bet, let's do this then.
Yeah.
But even more so now, the amplification of that, with it being like now, I'm not just, cheese plate is a nice glass of, organic wine from Australia. Now I'm like, oh, here's this really opulent bottle from France or Italy kind of thing. Like I'm pushing things that previously in the industry, I would go to tastings and be like, oh man, that's awesome, because I know I'm never going to get around that bottle again.
Right. Kind
of thing. It's just, there's a ceiling for what we do.
Right.
I mean, we had some, they still have some amazing bottles in vintage kind of thing, but like, I'm getting joy expressing what I feel people should not be neglecting, and not necessarily what they should be drinking, but what they should not be neglecting.
Right.
In this space. And then the aspect of pairing wine is awesome. It's bonkers to me that people are like, oh, wine and food pairing is a bunk ass practice. Like, no. Are you kidding me?
No.
Are you kidding me? Do you not taste this?
Scotty, that is my favorite thing in the entire world. And Trey will tell you, when you want to watch me get so excited and be so happy, is there's not anything better in the world than when you have a beautiful meal and an incredibly well paired glass of wine to go along with it. It's fantastic. And the fact that goes underappreciated, or it's just whatever.
No, it was like a few trends. It was like a few months. It was like all the major podcasts that I was listening to. There was at least one, and I feel like it's a buzz thing that we latch onto in this particular culture. It was like, well, what's the most left take we can put out there? To be controversial. Like, come on, yeah. To say food and wine pairing is bunk it's wild. That's a wild take. You hate food. Do you hate food? You hate your life. Get at me. You need food to live.
That's right. Now, see, I think you were made to be in this profession just with that one statement alone. Like you were wasting your time at the other in the office when you should have been here the whole time.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, no doubt, and it's not often, but some days, like, man, I would really just like to sit down at a computer and just not have nobody fucking bother me for like
Right.
8 hours and then I'm out, kind of thing. But this is definitely more suited. Like, um, I was saying earlier, am kind of a bit of a private and subversive person, but I do tend to put myself within the public eye, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I've got buffers, so I feel like it's within reason. Like I will recluse quickly, but when I'm out, I'm out,
Right.
and when I'm on, I'm on. And there's no such thing as me being out and not being on, kind of thing. So
Well, let's talk about that a little bit deeper. We've talked about, well, you and I had a little sidebar conversation before we, got on this, but when you're bartending, you're center stage, like everyone around the bar is all eyes on you, right? I bartended for many years. I had no problem with that. But on the flip script, on the other side of your dual life that you live, you're an MC and a DJ, which also puts you center stage, but yet you claim to be a little bit of an introvert. So how do you handle both those worlds where in both of your passions you are center stage in during that time?
because I realize I'm operating on a system of control, which makes me comfortable in both scenarios.
Okay.
Because I had to like sit back with myself one day and I was like writing down like pros and cons of things that I'm doing, to see if I should and could continue doing them. And I was like, why? Well, if you don't like to be bothered, why do you do these things? I'm like, well, there's a system of control in place. And me seeing someone out while I'm doing those things that I know, or seeing a random stranger enjoy those things, yes, gives me pleasure. It's a system of control, and I am somewhat of a closet people pleaser, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah.
I think you have to be when you're in hospitality,
Mhm.
or at least you should be, or maybe that's where like the ones who really perform well
Mhm.
are. It brings them pride and pleasure to see and make other people happy.
Which makes me like, I guess, more subversive because my other part of my brain is like, that is classic, like high functioning narcissism in a respect. Are you happy with me? Am I okay? Did I do all right? Kind of
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
But I did get into it being more so where I'm removed from the space. Like, are you all right? Like, is everyone good? I just want to make sure everyone's good. And I spent a lot of time studying my zodiac to counteract what everyone was reading about my zodiac. And so that's how subversive a brother used to get. Like, I don't want people even trying to predict my next move. But if there's a Cancer thing about me, that is it. And that's why I think I thrive so much in hospitality. Like, that aspect of like, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable in the space that I've either created myself or had a hand in creating. Like, I want
Right.
everyone that comes to the store, if you're celebrating something, let's celebrate. If you're business mealing, let's make this one of the ones you guys talk about around the water cooler for the next couple weeks, like that kind of thing.
Do you think that it's just being people pleaser? Or do you think that it's just you're wanting to execute your job at a high performing level, regardless of where it's at or what it's to deal
Oh,
with?
and that's any job. Like
Right.
any job.
Right.
I've been a custodian. I've been like a CSS call center person for Pizza Hut. Like I got, did the Mathis Brothers thing. I did the Dish Network thing. Like,
But you didn't mention Pizza Hut. That would have been your first intro.
that was my first job, I guess. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, what, 15 and a half, 16 when East Side, right around the corner from the Nam, what is now the Nam High, which used to be, was it like a CC's Cosmetology, and then after that it was a pool hall, which, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then it became the Nam High and all the other stores. But just around the corner over there was like the Pizza Hut call center, and that's, you said take orders and handle.
Okay. you grew up on the east side, and I'm going to ask you a question because I'm assuming that you know better than I do. I always call it Nam High. Is it Nam High?
I mispronounce Vietnam often as Vietnam. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So maybe I'm right and you're wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
That's like, instead of a twang, I just mispronounce shit hella American sometimes.
no, I joke with people and tell them that English is my second language, and then I say it as a joke because I struggle with English so much that it should be my second language. But then it is immediately asked, "Well, what was your first language?" And I'm like, "There isn't one." But
Gibberish.
yeah, it is not my strong suit. The words.
And then there's certain phrases like that too. I'm gonna mess a phrase up like, every dog has his day. I'll be like, every dog in a week or something like that.
Yes. Okay. So let's get a little bit more into the Dr. Freeman side of your personality and or life. I know that when I first moved to Tulsa, which was 2002, I think, I came from Omaha and was relatively immersed in the hip hop culture and scene there. When I came to Tulsa, I was looking for something similar, trying to check it out. At that time, from my perspective, there was nothing, or very, very little. And so I really struggled finding anything like that. But now, the hip hop culture here in Tulsa has seemed to have grown quite a bit since that time frame, and I have read on multiple different websites that you have been a pillar of helping growing that scene. Would you agree with that statement and care to elaborate on your MC name of Dr. Freeman?
Just a guy that's very passionate about a couple of things and really wanted to express those things, which, yeah, you're right. What, 2002, 2003? Overground wise, this is club culture, like late
During that
90s,
time,
early
sure.
2000s. Yeah,
Yeah.
late 90s, early 2000s. Club culture was heavily into effect, and Tulsa had like some clubs out south, etc. But like the hip hop scene was always underground, and even like what we now consider as an overground scene was very, very underground. So once again, a shout out, OGs, Chris Walker, Boogie, B-Boy Boogie. Shout out Chris Skur, the folks at UAT, us against them. Those were the ones putting on jams that got me more comfortable with how I felt about hip hop.
Okay.
Because, I was, Mr. Backpacker. I was never Mr. Tall T, FUBU Jersey Cat. I had a couple, but still. But finding those cats, and that felt like home to me because I was listening and immersing myself into a lot of those facets of hip hop culture, i.e. the four elements, that is breaking, rapping, scratching, and graffiti. Folks will throw a fifth in there, knowledge of self. Yes, but let's keep it to the core. It's another conversation for another time. But yeah, I remember first jam I went to, the shrine used to be called just the Mercury. Yeah, the Mercury Lounge across the street, and then it was just called the Mercury. And I went, and I'm trying to remember who was DJing.
Roughly what year do you remember?
This is, I want to say 2003 or 4, because like just before I went off to finish my last 2 years of my bachelor's. And then the dude who was running all the clubs like out south, and then on Brookside, and then downtown, Studio 310. It's the Steve Kitchell Club.
Yes,
if you know that
yes.
name, Tulsa's little mini mob. But where Vintage is now, and St. Vitus is, you go across that alley, and there's like, the base of that apartment complex that space in the middle, and then the rib crib. That was all just one club that we used to
Right.
go to
I
like all the
remember.
time.
Yes.
So club culture is going on, everything like that, but I'm still finding those jams. And then also shout out to Oklahoma City, School of Thought, Ronnie Harris, like those cats being closer to a bigger market like Texas, they had more of the blueprint down of how it should go. Not just battle rapping, but like just jams in general. Was it Boogie had took me out there one night and we went to School of Thought, and then we went after that to the Techniques battle. And there was just like that culture, like the amount of love and respect that goes on within the b-boy b-girl community is just, it's awesome. There's rivalries, but everyone's still, the sportsmanship is there, dapping each other up at the end. Everyone is always giving props on good moves. Battle rapping is different. It's a bit more machismo, like I don't like you, you don't like me. We are already. It needs to be like that all the time, but it's laxed up a little bit where cats are not, you know, let's fucking throw hands about it kind of thing. But
Right. It's not carrying on after
yeah,
the show or after the.
yeah.
Yeah.
But cats is still like putting like up a high quality level of competition within that, and like to see how that has translated to now, because now that battle rap scene, that cipher scene has gotten so much bigger. Thankfully, that's so dope.
Yes.
But starting out, it was just those things. So I got into b-boying first, then I got into graffiti and MCing subsequently, and now DJing and stuff. It's been quite the journey, but I'm gonna shout out my man Dan again, because I came home from college and we were always messing with weird raps in the dorms, and then one day he was like, "Hey, we're just jamming. You want to come over and spit some lyrics and see where it goes?" And that's kind of how it started. Snorlax, 2 MCs, 2 bassists, 1 drummer, no guitar, and we were doing like a mixture of like new metal-ish, rappy, like pop punk stuff.
I want to get my hands on some of your old stuff.
Oh, snorlax.bandcamp.com. That's Snorlax with 2 X's. Album still is there. It's called Stay
Really?
Gold.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of, and once again, credit to Dan, because he got me out of my shell of like just doing standard raps. Like we were writing lyrics about literature. Like there's a song about the Scarlet Letter. There's a song,
Okay.
there is a song with, it's called Stay Gold, but there is a song about
I wish I could help you. I want to help you so bad, but I have no idea.
come on, Jimmy, you got this.
It's
Johnny
this
Boy.
Johnny Boy.
Yeah, Stay Gold, Johnny Boy. So we do. Matter of fact, we probably should just did like a whole EP off of those books, because I wanted to do a song about Rumblefish too. Anyway,
Sounds like you're headed back to the studio.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
always set up over at Clean Hands. But yeah, had that band. We did some dope stuff with that. That was like my first time going to South by Southwest. That was a great experience as well.
You performed at South by Southwest, yes?
Yeah,
Is
for
that
my
what you're
first time.
That's so cool. What do you
Yeah.
mean first time? You've done it multiple times?
Yeah, 3 times with 3 different acts. We went down there with Snorlax the first time, All House second time, DJ'd last year, and I'll be going back again this year to DJ again for
What?
some Fila artists.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
it's super fun. So that was like also another experience of me seeing how, industry and and festivals work together, and networking, how networking works, especially for this kind of thing. So yeah, all credit to Snorlax getting us started. And we were doing those shows at Pony with our good friends. Like Gardant was like this jammy, dancey band. Shout out to the Hewlett brothers and Milo and my boy Mason. And then we were playing also with Lizard Police, so shout out Mitch, Flores brothers. And my boy Austin. Yeah. And we would do like weird little setup shows. And then when me and Dan started Oil House, we brought on homie Mike D, who brought on his cuz Saran the Seventh, and then prolific mixtape king Verse. He was already coming to the shows, pushing mixtapes, always showing support, always showing love. And then he was like, bam, him and Paid came on to the team, and from there we were doing like Oil House, Gardon, Lizard Police shows. So like you start out with Lizard Police, giving you like really good thrash, like power punk metal. And then you go into Gardon. Or we can switch it up. Like we do Oil House second. You're getting your hip hop fix in the middle, beats, raps, and rhymes, and then we'll end the night dancey style with Gardant with their high energy, up tempo dance music. And yeah, that's how we got started. That's
So
kind
your
of
music, like that you enjoy, it knows no bounds of genre. It sounds
no,
like.
men's got many styles, and I tell people that whenever they are like reluctant to ask me if I'll play a certain thing when they go to book me for a gig. I'm like, oh, I got that. Yeah, I got many styles. What you want, Afro beats? What you want, punk? You want like what, doom metal? You want noise? We're doing like DC hardcore. What we want, vinyl, digital? What we doing? I got it.
Right.
But yeah, and also thank my mom. Would also blame my mom. We were not allowed to have any. I was not allowed any parental advisory labeled material in the house, and this is like, you kids might not know Camelot music. You kids might not know FYE, but yeah. So when I would go into those stores and like you could listen, they had the little headphone
Yeah,
station.
yeah,
You
yeah.
could listen to the album, like get a couple, like you get like 30 seconds of a track,
Yes.
and that's how I got into electronic music, which showed
Okay.
me the parallels between like that and hip hop. And we're talking like UK stuff. I gotta get like Herbal Beats Volume 1 through 3, and you're having like Orbital, Daft Punk, Chemical Brothers, like the big names, and then you got smaller names on there too, um, uh, that were crushing it. And it put me on to, you know, a whole nother world. I was like, man, it's fast paced. It's got a beat I can jam to. I'm really digging this. And then you would hear something like Ultra Magnetic, the Most Def remix, and it's like this drum and bass track with Most Def vocals over the track, over the front of the track. Prodigy's remixes like were not all very fast paced. They had like some really hard hitting like head nod stuff, and then I started getting into like UK rap and grime and like Skepta and stuff like that. But and then end of the night, like I grew up once again MTV kid, so Headbangers Ball got me
Right.
into rock and stuff like that. I remember the first time I ever saw Metallica's One, like the video that has like the spliced in movie with the dude who's like a quadriplegic and he's got the face mask on. I actually had to go out, search for and find that movie. That movie changed how I looked at life, death, war, everything, like your psyche. But the fact that they spiced that into that video, and it's like and darkness is opposite me.
This
But yeah,
is crazy. I had no idea that you. I mean, you were just a lover of music. Period.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
because after like Headbangers Ball and all that stuff, and then what was the other late night one? Amped. Amped was always like the electronic music videos. So I was like, you know, Get Busy Childs and fucking block rocking beats and stuff like that. That was like playing week in, week out, and I would go find find that music, then go into the FYE and be like, oh, I recognize these names, didn't recognize the other ones, and then just putting it all together. But shout out also to my brother, even though I was not allowed any parental advisory stuff, he got me that Wu-Tang Forever double.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what locked me in with East Coast rap. This is Wu-Tang Forever. This came out, what, 96, 97, 96?
Yeah.
I feel like 96. But I got that double tape for, it was in my stocking stuffer, and he gave me the old, like, the wry smile and look, make sure your mama don't see it. Shout out to my stepbrother AD, appreciate that. Because other than that, like, my other stocking stuff was in there, tape-wise, was like,
When you say
Brandy's
tape, you're meaning like
cassette
cassette
tape.
tapes.
Yeah, so it
Yes.
was like Brandy's debut album, And So For Real, they did that Candy Rain song. I had that. I had that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that one. But yeah, that got me started. I had to do my own personal discovery of music. And even then I realized sonically I was digging stuff like, old blues, soul, funk, and then subsequently classic rock, because like Cream, Zeppelin, all of them have like that blues, but some funk, but a lot of blues going on. Um, yeah, and then diving back into, as I got older, being able to search for things that I recognized when I was too young. Like my mother was big into Curtis Blow, so she had those albums and Parliament Funkadelic. So I would like go back and get into that older rap, which led me to like from Cool Mo D, Curtis Blow into Gangstar, Mobb Deep, etc.
Right.
And we wasn't like, and this is like late 90s, early 2000s. So you had to pick a side. You East Coast rap or you West Coast rap.
Okay, so which were you?
I was East Coast rap.
Yeah.
But also like I had my cousins that had like Oak Muggy mixtapes, and like Mugtown tapes and stuff like that. And they put me on to like more Southern rap, like UGK, definitely Outkast when they first hopped on the scene, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. Before they, I wouldn't say got weird with it, but started expressing themselves more with like AT Aliens. Like I was in on that train first. It's like, once again, music I definitely had to hide. Stuff like Too Short. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. DJ Quick.
Right.
That kind of thing. But I was mainly an East Coast head. And I was like, a lot of Big L. When it came to picking a side, is it Biggie or Pac? I was like, well, I'd rather Big L versus Delta Funk Homo Sapien, and people be like, who and who? I'm like, well, one of them's Ice Cube's cousin, so you need to know.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, grew up with all the music, but hip hop just always was with me because I learned early. I had rhythm, which led me into b-boying, and then like I was always a fan of poetry and prose.
Yeah.
I guess you could say, as far as academically, because they were like, Homer these are all written as poems. I'm like, wait, this is a great story we're told. Iliad and the Odyssey.
Right.
And then I got into stuff, some of the darker stuff like Edgar Allan Poe. I really enjoyed the way Shakespeare wrote, and I'm like that's how shit's gotta fall off the tongue when you rhyming, kind of thing.
Right.
So
yeah. Okay. So as far as your, I'm maybe making an assumption that's not necessarily true, but I would assume then, from what I know of you, that obviously hip hop and music is a strong passion of yours and something that has been like a thread in your life. It sounds like pretty much since existence, because with your mom and everything. But also the wine world and wine culture is also something that you're very passionate about, I would assume, as well. So with those two things, my next question would be, how do you manage both of those things as passions in your life? Like, do you see them as two polar opposites, like of the spectrum, and they just sit respectfully in their own little corners? Or do you see them overlapping at all?
I used to keep them and look at them as separate. It's like, you rock a show and then you go do your shifts at the bar, and then you're sitting there and someone's like, Dr. Freeman? And then you're looking around like, who told you? What? Huh? No, not in here. We're Scotty in here. I'm Scotty in here.
Right.
And people ask some questions. But that's like just a testament to like me wanting to be private, wanting to be subversive about how I might present myself and project myself, kind of thing. And then I kind of had like a little mini conversation with myself, like, why? The parallels are definitely there. Like, you're working late into the evening at the bar, you're performing late into the evening at someone else's bar,
right?
That kind of thing. Being out of that late, you run into more members of the service industry because you're at their haunts that they go to post shifts, stuff like that. And then I've noticed as I've gotten older and been involved in this, that, and whatever on the music side, I can suggest, okay, you have this going on. You need a place to meet with these people about whatever project this is. Will come holler at me. And like, I had artists used to come pull up, talk shop, or sit at the bar and like write rhymes and get a drinks from me, that kind of thing, just because.
Right.
And then, as I said before, like that also coincided with, okay, someone's doing a private event. They know what I do. And I'm like, okay, do you know how we can access large amounts of something to drink for this event, given what you do? And also, I think we got y'all on the bill too. So I'm like, oh, I got double down
Right.
on what I need to do. So yeah, the parallels are definitely there, definitely there. And it's been a fun journey putting people on to different types of music and then subsequently putting music people on to different types of beverage and wine and hospitality and stuff like that
Right.
that they're not normally used to because, you know.
Do you have a success story there? Like something that um, you thought that maybe you were making a suggestion that might be way outside of the box that someone really gravitated, anything that kind of stands out or no, just in general?
Uh
Because I would always like it when you're like, a little bit about a person or maybe a lot. And you're like, you probably have never had this, but I guarantee you're going to like it if you try it. Like, and it kind of blows their mind away.
oh yeah, Bougie Sardon. Like we were at some big function and we were celebrating and I had brought that and a Bericino orange pet nat. And yeah, shout out to my boy Duke. Duke's dope a lot. Shout out to No Parking Studios. Like that changed his like seeing his life change off of that. I mean, there's other minor stories too, like, oh, I was able to hook up these cases of bubbles for a celebratory end of recording session for Dr. View for a tidy whenever they did their retreat kind of thing. Being able to, you know, get other DJs because I'll pull up to the decks of the booth with my own bottle of wine and my own stemware, and
Yes.
then they'll be like, "Where do you get those? Where do you get that?" So like, here late over the past couple of years, like my cohort at Clean Hands owner Aaron Wisney, like I always hook him up with Gabriel Glass, that kind of thing. It's just like little small stuff like that,
Right.
and then also being able to have people trust me, like, yo, so once you to DJ my special day, my wedding, but also what are your recommendations or how do you feel like about these two wines? Cause this is what we're serving. And I'm like, bam. So I get to once again, double down and
Right.
help people out with like one of their most important days of their life.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah, the parallels are there. As far as like a huge story, they're all kind of like that, just like little awesome
Right.
little moments.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're being able to do that quite a bit. So I would consider that exactly what I just asked about. Okay. So you're talking about yourself personally, as far as like your day-to-day life and activities of the parallels kind of merging to each other. But what about the products themselves? So like the product of music, specifically hip hop, and the products of like wine. Do you see any parallels between those two worlds or because I feel like the public as a whole kind of views them so totally different and not seeing anything kind of remotely that would tie them in other than potentially maybe a rapper owning a winery or making his own wine or something like that. But as the product as a whole, do you see them crossing over with each other at all?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. I mean, I will say that hip hop and rap music has been a vehicle driving certain major brands.
Okay. Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like you don't
Like
hear
Cristal.
that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yes. And then if you have your own stuff, you're never gonna hear any of it. But like even in the fashion world, like we talk a lot about high fashion. We talk a lot about access, well, it's talked about a lot in mainstream hip hop and rap. That you don't see kind of like that parallel. Like maybe in country music, they might throw Dodge a shout out or something like that in the lyric, but
Yeah,
it's not.
nobody's
Yeah, no one's
thinking
really.
about Jack Daniels.
Yeah, well, shit, they might be singing about Jack Daniels kind of hard too, but it's not like Taylor Swift is like dropping a song about Lululemon or something like that. It's not like
Right.
that. It's not.
Right.
But so in the hip hop community, bam. So we look at these things as it's making us look at these things as opulence. It's making us look at these things as this is what we need to attain. Which the psychology brain in me looks at that as a whole, like, which is why like I definitely not a mainstream kind of guy in that regards to that respects, but yeah, I would definitely say those two things are driving one another. Like the way we talk about access from money, or not money, but specifically from our physical things like what we drink, what we wear, what we drive.
Right.
Definitely so. So, do I have some lyrics where I'm talking about a mantra? Say, yeah. Because I want motherfuckers to be asking, what do you mean mantra? Say? You know what I'm saying? Like, Cristal's cool, but have you had the LG-48? Like, what you know about Premier Grand Cruise? Like, there's so much wordplay going on there that, like, yes, definitely they coincide. And then to see how many hip hop artists, like, what E40's got the Earl Stevens wine.
Yeah.
Like he's like he has a shit like Carlo Rossi jugs. Rick Ross has the Bel Air bubbles. Jay-Z, Beyonce have Douce.
Right. Which I'm dying to try. I've never. You can't get it here in Oklahoma, can you?
Yeah.
Douce.
It's an SG product.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Where do you? I mean, not to get too into this, but where is it stocked at? Is it at Ranch or?
I feel like Ranch and Park Hills, but more so Park Hills.
Okay.
Yeah, because Park Hills got.
I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, unpopular opinion. Scotty don't like Hennessy.
Oh, really?
I'm not a Hennessy fan. I'm not there's. What's in, and I say this, and this is where I'm spoiled for being in.
Well, yeah, you don't like Hennessy specifically. It's not that you don't like cognac, right?
Exactly. It's not that I don't like cognac, because like once I had Armagnac, I was just like, whoa,
Right.
Armagnac, and I'm like, what? Petite cognacs, and then you start learning the difference between your XOs and VSOPs, etc.
Right.
I mean, we were singing like E&J. We was on that Erkin journey. Like, that's what I thought all cognac tastes like.
Right.
And Hennessy, you want to know better.
Right.
Just really good marketing. I mean,
well, marketing, and then the fact that, like what you were saying earlier, it's in the music, so people ingrate it into the culture, and therefore they think that that's the thing to drink.
And then that's why I get the weird looks when I pull up to the function, because that's how susceptible we are as society. Like if they got your demographic in a chokehold, man. Like, I'm going to still get weird looks when I pull up. Because I remember pulling up with a bottle of Elijah Craig to a function once. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, it's Elijah Craig, small batch. I'm like, small what? They're like, yeah, it's small batch. And they were like, oh, that's good, man. She's strong, though. I'm like, yeah. Stuff like that. And I was like, I like being immersed in the hip-hop community so I can keep debunking all that. Like, there's better things. Like, we don't have to keep falling into that trap.
Yes.
Like, what was it? Late 90s, early 2000s when Hilfiger dropped that little line. I was done. I was done with Hilfiger.
Remind me?
Brody was said something to the effect of like, if I had known that this was going to be like, if he had known that the African American demographic was going to be the major demographic of, his clothing line and wear, he would have went a different direction.
Oh.
And I was like, since then, which is funny to me that Tommy Hilfiger as a clothing line is now making a comeback within the Black community, but they're young kids. They never saw that.
Right.
They don't know.
They're not privy.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Which is super wild. But it's the same thing. It's like hip hop culture has told me Jordans, Air Force Ones, et cetera, but the most expensive pair of shoes I own are a pair of Italian handmade Ferragamos. All right. I will spend $400 on those way before I spend $400 on some J's, because I'm not conditioned to think that way, kind of thing.
Right.
But now it's 2024. we're in that era of weird is good.
Right.
It makes people curious. People are more uh, agreeable to trying new things, and I do dig that part about the culture. But there's definitely the opportunity for one to influence the other when it comes to hip hop and wine, for sure. And I love to see, like, when I see a photo of Jay-Z and DJ Khaled sharing, like, both having a glass of wine, and DJ Khaled's holding it by the bowl, but you see Jay-Z holding it by the stem. Like, I stood up and started clapping when I saw that. That came across the feed, and I was like, yes. Like, that is step one
Right.
for me.
Not only is he drinking wine, but he's also holding his glass properly.
Gotcha. It's like
Right.
Black culture, sweet wine, a lot of Moscato.
Sure. And I would argue not just black culture, but rural.
Truth. But more so often than not, sweet wine. You know, largest demographic, diabetes, etc. This all makes sense. It all coincides. So I'm keep telling people, okay, instead of Moscato, how about something very fruit forward and very pleasant,
Right.
or that pulls back on that, on the bricks. I've got like
Baby steps.
baby steps. Yeah, I got a prosecco.
Prosecco.
I got a. You want a sweet red? I got a bubbly Lambrusco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a great little like side road onto the highway. There is the Lambrusco for sure.
I was gonna switch my name to that, DJ Little Lambrusco.
I like that. Although I don't know, you're pretty tall. So is it just like a play on words then?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Okay. So when you see rappers like Snoop, Nicki and Minaj and Jay-Z, we've mentioned a couple of times, all having their own wine. What are you, is it a business move or is it a like shift in culture, or what do you think that?
It's a bit of both, but there's percentages of each, obviously. Business move, I think, is kind of like the main thing, and then that gets the demographic, that gets the culture curious about it, and then it'll make it easier for them to get into the things of quality, kind of thing. I mean, this is a subjective experience, obviously, but I'm in the philosophy of there's universally bad and then there's universally good. And it's just, this is what it is. Shit
Right.
that's always going to taste good. And then stuff, if you do it like this, is always going to taste bad in comparison. Like there's
Right.
there is no if, ands, or buts about it. But at the end of the day, it's all about what that person wants and respecting that. And then also, whether you admit it or not, makes you curious. And when no one's looking, you're probably going to try that same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So definitely business move. And then after that, I'd say, yeah, shifting culture, because I don't think I've ever seen something like this before coming up in like the 90s or not now. It's like after 2000s, yes, wine culture. And I even see it in media too. When I see shows like The League do like a whole arc on them trying to get a wine bar going, that was fucking hilarious.
Yes.
And then I see movies that are wine centric, and I'm not just talking sideways, but any controversial fella at the moment, Jonathan Majors, I believe he did that movie. It's still on Netflix, where he went to go get his song, and that was my first introduction into Jonathan Majors as like a freaking actor.
Right.
So,
I don't know if I've seen that. I'm gonna have to go check
I'll
to
have
see
to
if
look
it's.
it up.
Yeah. Okay.
It was on Netflix when it originally came out, but it was a good looking one. But yeah, so from that, and then in music and culture, like we see these rappers like buying and making all those, because even early 2000s was it Armadillo Vodka from Rock,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then P Diddy Goofy with the Ciroc, which he just gave up all his.
And then Goofy.
He was just goofy. And then before Duce, Jay-Z had got into Ace of Spades. Like, he was brought into that.
I forgot about that.
So,
Yeah.
Like, there's always moves being made. And then what? Rock's got his Terramana. Clooney's got his. Even Hagar's got his jams going. And then for my third passion, football. Like some of my
Yes.
favorite footballers, like they have their own wineries. Like Zabi, he's got a vineyard in Spain, stuff like that. Back to the States, Dwayne Wade. I mean, we sell a lot of his cab by the bottle. So he's got a great Chenin Blanc. I think some of these cats that get into this position of, well, I got all this money, I gotta do something with it, right? Well,
Right.
why not do something I'm not necessarily like, oh, I'm 100% crazy passionate. I'm just very interested, and I got the capital to become more interested, to
Right.
become the fanatic kind of thing. And I
Right.
think that's where I see the difference between, like, say, Dwayne Wade's wine or Snoop's. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, there. As far as quality, there's kind of a massive difference. Yeah.
You say Wade went out, got the master song, got them in the
Yes.
vineyard, and
Yes.
has like that team going on. So, and then sports and music, obviously.
Right. One kind of like goes hand in hand with the other.
Right,
Yeah.
and
And there's a huge shift within the NBA culture too, I feel like, with wine. Like I feel like that it's almost growing quicker than music side, I would almost argue.
Sure.
It seems like they have like a whole I can't remember the name of it, but they have like a whole I wouldn't say a distribution company, but maybe that carries the portfolio of many NBA wines. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
But I believe you on that, because what was it? Kobe dropped an album? Not Webb. Who am I thinking of? There's another cat that dropped it. There was more than a few NBA stars late 90s or 2000s that were trying to drop albums versus trying to like they thought that was going to make them the money.
Right.
Instead of like making the investment in something like agriculture or winemaking, etc. kind of thing. Except Shaq. Shaq can still flow. Well, Shaq was like, he was all around, because like, he was playing with the Magic, and then he just started potlocking, and then this is the biggest dude I've ever seen do a windmill in my life. And
I don't know this about him.
Oh, this was like pre-warm up. What was it? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? Like he was with it. That was like the jam, and he had the last verse on that track, and it was like the hardest verse. 60 Minutes of Funk, Volume 3. He has a track on that goes super hard. Shaq could float, but he was also a b-boy too. He did that
How
one
is someone
thing.
that big a b-boy?
And he can move too. Did you see him with the Jabberwockies?
No.
He had came out with the Jabberwockies. I think it was like for an All-Star game or
When?
something. This was like 2016, 15. This is like back in the day. It might have been 2012-ish.
Oh, wow.
But he had came out with the Jabberwockies, like mask on and everything, and they did like a whole routine. He could pop lock.
I did not know that about him.
Bruh. In the height of his beef, he had popped up in a club. The height of him and Kobe's beef, he had popped up in the club, hopped on the mic, started rhyming, and then had like the whole club was like, Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes. And then like call and response, like he was like Kobe, and he had the whole crowd shouting back, like, that's the MC, move the crowd. Yeah,
Right.
Shaq is the MC.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to go try to find some of that on YouTube.
Shaq is the MC.
So I don't remember what article it was in, but I don't know if it was Forbes or Wine Experience or not Wine Experience, obviously my brain is on something else. But I had learned about Jermaine Stone, and he has like his whole thing is wine and hip hop, right? And I couldn't help, as the more I've learned about him, to see the parallels. I feel like the more I learned about you and how much like, you know, him coming up, and very similar to the story that you kind of just shared with, you know, you didn't exactly seek out the industry as much as the industry kind of found you. And then you grew up with, you know, music as being like a constant staple in your household. But now he is also a certified somm, and, you know, he's kind of like the liaison between the hip hop world and the wine culture world. Are you familiar with him, and do you resonate with his story at all? Do you see the similarities?
This is like what him, Hugh Society, Cocktail Bandits, a couple like, you know, black creator properties that obviously I fall into, and so iconic photo. I'm trying to remember what winery was at, but he's like in the vineyard, but he had put the booties on his J's before he went out to the vineyard, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But Yeah, I totally dig it because I'm seeing more black functions be wine centric.
Yeah.
Definitely more so than I used to back in the day. I mean, like, I remember being in college and black fraternity sororities, like, they throw like a white party, you know what I'm saying? But we're just doing like, the basic stuff we know to get as like young college kids. But then as I get older, like, cats are trying to do more focused things and they're not trying to just get lit, argue about dumb shit while drinking like stuff that's gonna make you feel like 10 pounds of crap in a 6 pound bag the next morning kind of
Right.
stuff. So I'm glad. And then you have shows like Grand Cru
Yeah.
that are also putting that out there and pushing, you know, the narrative of this isn't just something bougie. This isn't just something like this. There's a whole history. There's a whole world. There's a whole university, if you will, behind it. Because I'm learning something every day. But
Yeah.
definitely, I like seeing those accounts out there. So I know that he's front foot on the gas, making sure that the parallels, the line gets more and more blurred kind of thing, because it's been very white male dominated industry
Mm-hmm.
for centuries kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing, more female owned and operated and more minority owned and operated things as far as like winemaking practices, vineyards, distilleries, etc. now than we've ever seen, which is super dope.
Yes, very dope. I really liked when I read an article about him, the way that he described the similarities between wine and hip hop, as far as like the style of hip hop that coming from different regions, like we were talking about earlier, East Coast versus West Coast, and then like the Atlanta scene and Houston scene versus like something like Detroit and Chicago, and how they're all kind of like different in their sound and their approach to the same thing, the music, and but the parallels between the region of wine, and like whilst it can be the same grape, it can take on a completely different complexity depending on where it was grown. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, he's so right. That is very strong connection between those two worlds that I never thought about.
That's like kind of Tulsa sound in a nutshell. Like, shout out to Billy Bruner, his son Jimmy Joe, and their family. But like them, Gap Band, they them taking the sound that they developed out to the West Coast and that turning into like the West Coast boogie sound
Right.
for like us pop lockers and boogalooers kind of thing is basically that exact same thing. It's like them. It's like taking Malbec from Cal and then taking it over to Mendoza, planting it, and like, oh snap, well, this flourishes out here, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like taking certain sounds, certain places, which is kind of what's happening in Tulsa. We had a lot of talent leave here, and not just hip hop. I mean, in other forms of and genres of music as well, but definitely hip hop, where cats saw that the terroir was more fertile for that grape to grow, that style to grow. That's why cats, they'll pop to Atlanta and then pop back kind of thing.
Right.
So they can pick up those practices. What are they doing in the vineyard, aka the studio or whatever, that I can bring back here.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's so cool.
It's regional.
Yeah.
And it's not just the grapes, it's the styles, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's the aesthetic, the whole nine.
It definitely shifted my way of looking at it when I read that. I just thought it was very cool. I don't know if you know that he's going to be here as one of, I don't know if you would call it a celebrity guest or just guest speakers. Yeah. At well, I just don't know the exact term that Phillip uses to describe. But he's going to be here.
Bunch of wine nerds, we don't say celebrity guest.
He's going to be here for a wine experience this year, so that's going to be really cool and definitely something very different that we've not had before.
Man, I'm trying to get Andre Mack through here too.
Let's do it.
Because that was it was like my first like, oh, I can do this. Like I remember following Andre Mack like at Old Vintage. And I think my early days of Instagram, I had posted something and it was like a split screen. I had like did a similar pose he did from a magazine. He had reposted it and I was like, and then, he's got the OPP other people's Pinot and stuff like that. And
Right.
book comes out, 99 bottles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is definitely hip hop and wine melded and married together. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I feel comfortable seeing that as like my role model of like, oh, I can do this.
And
And
he's
I feel
a
like Jermaine Stone probably feel the same way probably about it too. It's like,
right.
just shout out to Andre Mack.
And he's uh master sommelier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so well, speaking of sommeliers, you yourself are a certified sommelier. So
Hold on, we're gonna intro going into certified, y'all. I had to retake the intro. You let a couple years pass. You got to retake that test.
oh, really?
I had to retake it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to speak a little bit in more depth on, because I don't think a lot of people understand the complexity and the knowledge and potentially months, years leading up to taking the test, that it requires, and the knowledge to take this test, pass it, and to be a somm. So shed a little light on that.
Oh yeah. So intro. I mean, that's like your for the Gilded Master Sommeliers. Like that is like your highest percentage of pass rate kind of thing. It's like you'll get the materials. You know, you have ample time to look over them. And the first time I took it, like we had me, shout out to the homie, little Jimmy Reed. We had to go to Wichita, and it was a 2-day thing. You know, day one, they take you through every stitch. I mean, they take you to every stitch of the book and then test you on it the second day. And then as you go through, like you're tasting things.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, they give you an idea of what like the service portion is certified, which for certified, the thing that gets people most, even to this day, is the blind tasting. You know,
Yeah.
theory is something I think I've always been good with. I mean, not Siri theory. You can spend X amount of time absorbing information to be able to adequately regurgitate it as you need to.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with a service, mock service, and blind tasting portion of it is to really drive home. It's like, so, quote unquote, separates the men from the boys kind of thing. And there's cats that, even though that they are ultra prepared, like still don't pass that certified, because I think it's the psychological aspect comes into going with your gut, with it being like you could potentially be X amount of varietals or X amount of styles, and then you have to get it down to the vintage, the region, etc. Like,
right.
It's like some CSI shit. Like, you get to the crime scene, you pick up like a scoop of adult dirt and smelling. It's like, yes, it's about 8:15 p.m. He was wearing, Wolverine boots, size 11.
Right.
That kind of thing. So, thankfully, there are more people interested. So you have study partners. That's what I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other facets of things, you just, you open a book, you cram, you're solo kind of thing. But with it being a industry where, yes, you're serving someone, it's good to know that there are other people that are in the same boat. So you're not just feeling like, oh man, I got to do this all by myself kind of thing. Because
Right.
I mean, wine at the end of the day is probably best, instead of just enjoy it alone, enjoy it with others.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the other facets of the process within the industry too. Which, other jobs, that's not really a thing. And even if you have like tests, it's just like you go to do your specific job and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But you're still very much having to like lean on others and everything like that throughout your process of education and from test taking into, actual application. So also, thankfully, nowadays, it's more than just the Gilded Master Sommeliers providing, credited programs that you can put on your resume. So, certified wine specialists and, the WSET stuff that our distributors have to go have to go through, or I don't necessarily say have to, because whenever they get to talking about it, they're excited. They're just as excited as we are
Mm-hmm.
about studying and taking these tests and becoming more knowledgeable about the products that we're around and trying to get folks into day in, day out kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even to the small stuff, I remember like we used to do bar smarts, like even that on like a small scale set you up for all those things. And for me, it's just like, oh, I'm back in university again.
Right.
You know, there's always something to learn. There's you're never gonna know it all, and it's okay that you're never
Mm-hmm.
gonna know it all, which takes the load off. Like it takes an unbelievable amount of pressure off, because you can still go to a table with confidence with, you know, three facts about said thing, and then you see this customer again, you might find out three more facts about said thing that you can also impart on that customer or guest, and then that enriches the experience, helps you out with your bottom line, i.e. your cha-ching,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that appreciation isn't. It's a weird culture that we have that, bam, the people that you're giving your most of your time to are like, you know what, I like what you're doing here so much. Here's five now. Now you need to go out there and impress a complete stranger to pay your bills.
Right.
I'm just here to give you the opportunity. But you got to go out and get it done.
Right.
But also for me, because you're selling my shit. It's like, it's a wild thing. And that this industry lets me know that, what humanity is not ready to just completely consume itself yet. I mean, if we have systems like this in place,
Right.
not all over the world, but at this point in the world kind of thing, especially the greatest country in the world, supposedly. But also, yeah, it creates that environment to where, your servers, your bartenders, yeah, they're being put through a lot of paces in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they get larger X amounts of time of not necessarily leisure, but of respite to recharge, get after it again. And I think that's why people stay in this industry for as long as they do, because there is time to heal and time to peel, as I say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you be peeling.
Party hard. You work hard, party hard in this industry, and not necessarily party hard, but I just feel like it's so the two go hand in hand when you're just like you were talking about earlier, when you're serving people this experience, and they're coming in and having like maybe an amazing meal and a fantastic glass of wine to go with it, and you're seeing that every day represented when you're at work. Well, that's what you want to do when you get off work too, because you're like, that looked amazing, I want to have that as well. So you tend to quote study after work, which is just enjoying a glass of wine or a cocktail. And
yeah, and I've never seen, I mean, as a bartender, you see these groups of people, they get off work. You can tell they just got off work. They're all meeting up after work, but you notice that they only are talking about work.
right.
And then we do the same thing.
Oh yeah,
We just
totally.
say, well, we'll get off the shift, we'll go sit down, and we'll start talking about that shift, which also why I'm glad I'm very immersed in the other facets of things that I do in town that I do. I can't get bogged down mentally like that. Like I don't know. It just lets me know there's other things going on that I don't have to, because I think like we get in that cycle of work, eat, sleep, repeat, work, eat, sleep,
Yeah.
repeat, that becomes like the only things that we have to talk about. And like we can do better. We have other things to talk about. We got other ideas. We got dreams. We got goals. Look on this sheet. Tell me which marble are you, like that kind of thing. Like what's your mood marble?
What's your mood
What's your mood marble, dude? Stuff like that.
Well, and then there's things like Chelsea that helps
yeah.
keep us.
No, I wouldn't say sane anymore. Oh
Well,
God,
I
keeps
mean,
me
it just
wild.
the pendulum will swing back. It's temporary.
We're waiting on that shoe to drop. I've been a Chelsea supporter for damn it 2 decades now. Like it was always bound to happen, but
Right.
growing pains.
Growing pains.
But Yeah, parallels have been great. Um, and the amount of education that is available to us at all times is astounding. I mean, none of that shit's free.
Right.
I get it. I mean, that's the same thing with any level of education and profession. And then if you're good at it, you can take it across like around the world kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That was like one of the cool things about, reading 99 Bottles by Andre Mack. Like that first part of that book is him talking about Psalm's not a test you take. It is a position that you're given in that you'll either excel at or you don't kind of thing. So it's like people come in and it's like, your song. I'm like, oh yeah, what level or something like that. And it was like, well, intro. I was like, well, can you call yourself a song? I'm like, yes, because my position, my role here is sommelier. Like that is not like something that you just go school to somewhere someone to call you. It's like, no, you're in that position from
Right.
jump, which, I used to say beverage director a lot more than I said som, but yeah, someone, had to make me realize that. And definitely reading that book is like, Andre Mack was like, I felt the same way when he talks about how he got into writing the list for like his first restaurant. He's just like, you just want to do it so bad that you're like, there's no way I'm gonna say no if given the opportunity. And
Right.
there was no way I was gonna say no. It's like, and I came from a background of, I was primarily at Vintage focusing on, cocktail spirits, booze for that program. But, as long as I was there was never going to be a situation where I was going to leave there and not be the wine guy, or we could be a wine guy, because I've been in and around, immersed in around it for so long. And then coming in this position, that was definitely like an easy, I didn't say easy, but at first I was like, dude, you ain't never done this. How you going to do this?
Right.
And then the more I started like taking myself through, putting one foot in front of the other, I was like, oh, you know this. You know this. I don't know why you were nervous about this. You know all this. So just apply what you know. And then here we are.
Here we are. And it's a screaming success.
I'm digging it. I do appreciate what I did learn, like back of house wise, from cats like Matt, and shout out to my man Dalton. It's like just knowing how to purchase, when to purchase, that kind of thing, to where you're
Learning your
not,
pars.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
not over ordering, or overspending to where you don't have money to do X, or XYZ. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I've never worked part of a restaurant group, so to speak, and now I'm part of Watershed. And it's been great learning and seeing how those things operate. It's like I'm, I guess, really fortunate to have had the time to grow into the role before the doors opened here, because it took us about 2 years and some change to get the place open. So
I
it was
know.
like it took a little while, and we were very, is this gonna work? I don't know if this is gonna work, kind of thing. But I am very, very pleased with the reception that the wine program has received from the community.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I think it's easily the most beautiful, well received restaurant bar program. I mean, I've not heard anybody say anything negative about the bar program and beverage program at all. So I think that's fantastic. You've done an excellent job here. I don't have anything else to talk to you about, apart from one question, and then we'll get to your pro tip and the mystery question you have for the next guest. But who's your favorite Chelsea player?
Didier Drogba.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think about that. All right. All right. Why did I even think about that? Yeah. It's got to go Didier Drogba, Paul Kennewill, Eden Hazard, Dennis Wise, John Obi McHale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my top five aside. That's my five.
That's your five.
That's my
Your
5.
go-to 5. Okay, so pro tip. What would be your pro tip that you would share with, I mean, it can be anything within beverage industry, or, like cooking at home, like whatever, but within this industry, what would be your pro tip that you would care to share to people?
Hold that muffin glass by the stem.
Well,
Always.
explain why. Explain why.
Reason being, you don't want to allow your body heat to change the molecular structure of the wine that you are drinking, because it's going to affect its taste.
That's right.
It's going to affect all of that good stuff. And also, smudgy prints on glassware, I guess, has become like my thing. It drives me up.
Yeah, fine dining, when you're sitting here polishing all of the ones that you've got to push out of the bar, it maybe changes your attitude a little bit on that.
Yeah. Good tip. Hold it by the stem. And you should already know this, it's always in the fridge.
Yes. Yes.
Any aromatized wine in the fridge. Read your labels, kids.
Okay, mystery question for the next guest.
Mystery question for the next guest.
I'll tell you the ones that we've had, so maybe it helps get your juices flowing. We had
It's crazy.
New York versus Chicago pizza style. That was a question. Then we had what would be your, like the one that we've heard of, that's been around a long time. If you were stranded on a deserted island, what would be your cuisine of choice for the rest of your days? And then obviously you answered today how did your parents feel or family feel when you said you were going to take hospitality as your route of career choice?
Let's see. My mystery question, I guess, would be
Yeah, it's kind of hard because you don't know who's going to be the...
Yeah, so I'm trying to like, what's a fun one? But also like, don't want to get deep, we want to get funny. Let's see.
That's a tough call, right? I always like to have the more in-depth conversations with people, but I also don't know how popular that is.
Heard. Let's see.
Obviously, Tony was trying to take the deep angle with his question.
Oh, here we go. This was something kind of mid-grade. What is a industry myth that most shocked you when you saw it debunked? Or
that's a good
excited.
one.
Like, what is something that you were always told this is how it's done, but then you got into the industry, you realize this is how it's really done? Like, what is a myth? What is your biggest myth debunked via the service industry?
I feel like this is like stems from a personal situation. Was there something for you that you...
Well, there's like a few things. It's like, I always, like, once again, like the vermouth thing. I was like, oh, it's bottles, this liquor, you set it out, that kind of thing.
Right.
Didn't know that Italian wines, certain ones get better if you just leave them out uncorked on the counter.
Right.
That kind of thing. Just weird stuff like that.
Yeah, like
stuff that society has always told us this is how it's done, but then you get into the industry and you're like, no.
Yeah, I would argue, kind of going off of the same thing that you just said with the wine. People always think that red wine is just you pull it from the counter and you serve, but depending on the temperature of the space around you, I mean, I would argue that you put it in the refrigerator for 20 minutes prior to serving.
Blend and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely, like, what's your myth debunk? People that are like, you only drink rosé during the summer, like stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Biggest myth debunked. Go.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. I'm not like mic's on or off. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and sure. I have enjoyed getting to know you better and learning more about you. And I'm excited that we have a friendship moving forward.
For sure. As always, y'all go out there. Hey, this whole experience, this whole interview can be summed down into one track. Stock free, Ryan Harvey, hard work, Prosecco.
Yes.
Yeah, they want the champagne and cava. They want the prosecco.
They want the Prosecco. So
Those
Prosecco
Freeman.
of sparkling is your jam.
Oh no, that's literally the track. We made a
Oh.
song during lockdown, and it was like after I learned about getting this job, and then yeah, we were just in this room on opposite corners, and I recorded the vocals, and then they made the track, and then we just
In this particular room? Or
no.
in
This was at
studio?
Heartworks. Yeah,
Oh.
shout out to Darku, aka Heartwork. But yeah, that has been my biggest marrying of the two things together is being able to rap on a deep tech track about sparkling wine.
I'm going to listen to it.
For sure.
But now that we're talking about it real quick, what is your sparkling? Like, is it Prosecco of choice, or are you a champagne guy, or Cava? Like, what?
What's today? Like, is it a Monday? Is it a Tuesday?
Fair.
It doesn't matter. Like, is it could be Cava one day, could be a Cremant the other, little sparkling Cremant. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I got the capital, let me get some of that Epernay. You know what I'm saying? What's happening?
Okay. Well, I'll let you go. I know you got a big day ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you.